This week in Arc Raiders has been kind of a mess. On Tuesday we got a sizable update, a new event, and the return of the much-loved Cold Snap map condition. But there was one pretty big problem. No mention of the rubber duck duplication glitch that's been running rampant for a while now. Shortly after the update, Embark Studios announced a hotfix. And then, literally 5 minutes later, more bugs surfaced. So they announced another hotfix. At that point, a lot of players were just sitting there wondering what the hell is going on over at Embark. How are exploits like this, that have been around for weeks, still not fixed? Embark has been really good at swinging the banhammer, less good at actually fixing the exploits themselves. Now, to be fair, this week hasn't been all doom and gloom. Embark did manage to get a few things right. They admitted defeat and brought back Cold Snap. And they introduced a PvE-centric event called the Shared Watch. But then, they followed up with a massive TRAILBLAZER nerf, much to the community's dismay. On top of that, new exploits seem to be popping up every single day. And yet, despite all of this, Arc Raiders publisher NEXON has confirmed the game has sold 14 million copies, with expectations that momentum will continue into 2026, even while the game keeps setting lower highs and lower lows on STEAMDB. Oh, and we also got some Valentine's freebies. We got a lot to cover this week in Arc Raiders. Let's get into it. Our first and easily biggest topic of this week is patch 1.15. I'll spare you the full patch note reading, so here's the short version. Patch 1.15 launched Tuesday and introduced the Shared Watch event. It's a PvE-focused event where you earn merit points for damaging, assisting, and destroying Arc enemies, and you earn nothing for hurting other raiders. Those merits progress the event pass, unlocking cosmetics for your raider and Scrappy, plus some raider tokens. This event runs until February the 24th, which also happens to be the day Shrouded Sky is most likely launching. We also saw the return of Cold Snap. Cold Snap was first introduced back in December with update 1.7, then quietly removed on January the 13th because it was supposedly a holiday exclusive. That decision confused a lot of people, myself included, because Embark didn't replace it with anything. At the time, there were rumors of a Toxic Swamp map condition buried in the game files. It even showed up in the weekly trials list, but we never got Toxic Swamp, so Embark effectively removed good content and replaced it with nothing. And once Cold Snap was gone, the cracks in the map rotation system really started to show. During Cold Snap, we had major map conditions up almost constantly, Cold Snap and Night Raids, which was great for variety, farming and trials. Now with Cold Snap back, Embark did what they usually do, and showed the EU player base the middle finger. Cold Snap is currently available 3 times early afternoon and twice late evening, which frankly surprised absolutely no one. They did the same thing with Bird City back in the Headwinds update, until they eventually folded and extended its frequency. At this point, it's either incompetence or, putting my tinfoil hat on, a deliberate way to force player attention. Because people have been complaining about map rotations since launch, and all we ever get is, we'll keep revising and trying to find a schedule so all time zones get a chance to play. A chance, not a guarantee. Anyway, talking about map rotations is just going to piss me off, so let's move on. Alright, they nerfed this thing too. And by nerfed, I mean they made it basically irrelevant. The patch notes say it does less damage to big enemies and more to small ones. Less damage is an understatement. A Bastion now takes 5 or so Trailblazers to go down. I get it though. It was way too strong, but they could have balanced it instead of gutting it. Increase the stack size to 5 or something. I can't say I'll miss it too much though. Running trials against people with 300 Trailblazers shoved up their ass isn't exactly fun. The Trailblazer did need a nerf. Still, sucks when your favorite toy gets taken away. I get it. Now, let's talk about this week's updates, or rather, updates, plural. Shortly after patch 1.15 went live, people noticed something important. There was no mention of the rubber duck duplication glitch. For anyone who didn't know, you could take a stack of 2 rubber ducks, move them back and forth, and then throw an infinite number of ducks to farm absurd amount of coins. And it wasn't just regular ducks, you could do it with the rare Bird City ones too for even more profit. Rubber ducks weren't the only problem either, you could also duplicate explosives, which eventually led to people running around Stellamontis with infinite trigger nades. You can probably imagine how that went. Austin later issued a statement saying a hotfix had been deployed to address duplication. But problems remained. People could still move their guns back and forth to generate infinite ammo, either to skip the expedition grind or to completely ruin someone else's run. As of writing, new exploits are still popping up. There's currently an invisibility glitch making the rounds on YouTube. And yes, I'm going to show this stuff, because if people don't see it, Embark won't fix it. On top of that, players are openly uploading videos advertising cheats for the game. Then, hilariously, the day after the first hotfix, community lead Oscar announced another hotfix, this time targeting the ammo exploits. So this week we had 1 patch and 2 hotfixes. Not exactly a great look for an already mixed track record. While parts of the community are getting increasingly frustrated, NEXON came out swinging with good news. According to their Q4 2025 investor presentation, Arc Raiders has sold over 14 million copies across all platforms in just 3 months. They are doubling down on their confidence in the game's future. If you want the full read of the presentation, the link is in the description. But the TLDR is simple. Arc Raiders sold insanely well, and NEXON expects that momentum to continue. Personally, I think that's going to depend heavily on 2 things: how well Shrouded Sky lands, and how well Marathon is received. A lot of players are already eyeing Marathon to scratch that PvP itch Arc Raiders hasn't fully satisfied. Bungie has announced a server slam running from February the 26th to March 2nd, so that will be everyone's chance to try it for free. I'm not overly hyped myself, but I do welcome the competition, because when you're sitting comfortably at the top, complacency tends to creep in. We'll see how things play out. There's also some speculation going around about hidden buffs to security lockers. After an earlier patch, a lot of players basically wrote them off entirely. But this week, several larger Arc Raiders creators have been claiming Embark quietly buffed them behind the scenes. That sparked renewed interest in security lockers and brought Security Breach back into the spotlight. Personally, I haven't noticed much difference. I've always run Security Breach successfully, even post-nerf, and since Embark hasn't officially mentioned any changes, it's hard to say what's actually going on. My best guess, they were always decent, and RNG just does what RNG does. Or, alternatively, this is just YouTubers farming easy content. Wild theory, I know. That said, given Embark's track record, it's also completely possible they changed something without documenting it. It wouldn't be the first time. This Saturday was also Valentine's Day, and Embark handed out a small free gift, the Bonded Bolts backpack charm. Not much to say. It's cute, it's free, log in and grab it. Looking at SteamDB, Arc Raiders continues its downward trend in player count. Since the start of the year, the game's been setting lower highs and lower lows. It's still top 5 in daily active users, and top 10 best sellers on Steam, but it is bleeding players. Not ideal, especially with Marathon around the corner. Shrouded Sky is Arc Raiders' final big update before Marathon hits, Embark really needs to nail it, because with overlapping player bases, Arc Raiders leaning PvE and Marathon leading PvP, there's a lot at stake, especially when PvP frustration and aggression-based matchmaking are already hot topics. That's it for this week in Arc Raiders, and honestly, this week was a hot mess. Yes, we got an event, but it's pretty lackluster. Merit gain from just damaging Arc enemies is a boring objective. If this is supposed to be a cooperative PvE event, why not rewarding healing, reviving, stabilizing, or helping other raiders extract? That alone would have made it far more interesting. We also got 2 new outfits, and you can clearly tell which one is premium. In my opinion, players probably shouldn't be giving Embark money while they are fumbling this hard. Because this week gave us a week event, hotfix after hotfix, bugs are still everywhere, and players openly promoting cheats. Trials are still miserable, map rotations are still being mishandled, and Embark keeps repeating the same mistakes they already made with Bird City and Cold Snap. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens next week. With frustration rising, issues piling up, and Marathon right around the corner, I'll see you then. My name is Hart, and thank you for watching this week in Arc Raiders. Peace.